Ampex as you want to just on the Lomo. And like if you get the phase right, nothing really changes. You're just adding a whole bunch of like information above 6K,
Right.
and then some like THD and saturation in the 300s. And so then for the bass, I think Ben, this one's a 5, yeah. So Ben was playing his Mulan, which is just a great instrument that Mulan built for him. It's a 5-string. It's like a baby blue P bass. It's sick. It's 5. And then that was direct into an Ampex.
Did you have to like separate them with like EQ and compression like later on, or was it kind of? I'm sure you did in the mix.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, of course. So generally for drums, I always do parallel compression. Just across the whole mix bus, across the whole drum bus. And bus is a little misleading. The way that my console's laid out, I have the whole Pro Tools outputs come out full normaled. So I get a mult baked in from every converter output. So you know how normaling works in a DB25 patch bay or a TT patch bay?
I mean, I'm
like,
only ever mixed in the box, so...
Oh, right. Oh, okay, great. Well, so the way that normaling works in a TT patch bay is you've got half normal or full normal. And those depend on the behavior of when you patch into one row of the other, whether or not it breaks that connection. So when something is full normal, you can patch into the output of the row above the input, right? And it will still send to the track below.
Okay.
So I've got the Pro Tools outputs full normaled into my console inputs, which means that if I plug into the Pro Tools outputs, they're still going into the console inputs. I just get another pair for free on a Bantam cable. So that's an automatic mult for every Pro Tools output, which I use to kind of do
parallel
compression.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the analog domain already at that point, so you don't have to deal with any phase coherence or comb filtering issues. You just parallel it out from the converter to, in this case, it was my gate stay level pair, and then return that to a different pair of console returns and print that into one stem, bong bong. Phase, happy, parallel, and analog from a hybrid mix.
Got it.
Yeah, so then there would have been parallel happening, and then probably I always gate the sub kick just because when you kind of get the sub speaking correctly, it can get really flabby if you don't. You know, so
you want it to be very precise.
Well, if you're giving that much information to the sub, if you're giving that much potential amplitude information to the sub, it's just important to control it.
Right.
You
don't want it to
like
be too long and kind
like,
of eat up all that real estate for...
Yeah, or like even just like going when the snare is hitting or like the hi-hat, like there's just like fucking, what's the digital term? Cruft. There's just like cruft. Just kind of down there, just like eating bandwidth that's not useful, but it's taking power from the two mics.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so I'll usually do some gating, and then, just the usual shit, man. Some EQ, some compression, the shit you got to do to make it work with the other elements. And that's it. Yeah, there's no grand secret. It's just the whatever tools that are kind of on hand that get the taste done. The fucking crazy thing about this record is we did it entirely in 10 days.
Wow.
Like track to master.
Well, we have
like
10
overdubs.
tracks, 10 days.
Yeah, exactly. But like that many overdubs and that much realization, and I mean mixing in analog too. Like it was a lot.
Wow.
That's the basic. That's the dubs.
The band just moved in for a week, basically.
We did. I want to say 4 days initially, maybe 3 days only of basics. And then we had a break, and Ben went back to New York and did some touring. And then he did 1 day of overdubs at a great studio in New York called Brooklyn Garden, or Electric Garden, sorry, which is my friend Ben Kane's studio in Brooklyn. Jackie, who's one of the engineers over there and is awesome, did the like string recordings, like the small ensemble stuff.
Wow.
And then Ben came back here, and we did another like 4-day session where it was all of the vocals and the mix.
Wow. Good for you, man.
So we were flying, bro. We had to go so fast on this one.
But the deadlines are just...
Yeah, it was just like, we were trying to get it out to come out for Black History Month. Very
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it sounds awesome. I love the work you've done. Like all the tracks you sent me are so cool. They're all over the place. But I would say that the common thread of everything you're doing is kind of just like good, cool music, and I guess film stuff also, which is sort of the same thing, just happens to be for a different medium.
Hot damn.
Yeah, I mean, clear.
Well, I don't think there's a better compliment that you could have given me, man. Good, cool music.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've kind of crafted I don't know, a space for yourself in the industry where you're kind of doing that kind of the kind of stuff that the projects you love, and that kind of gives you that inspiration to keep going. So I commend you for that.
Exactly. Thanks, man. Yeah, there's a Patti Smith interview where she says something about like keeping your name clean. Like that's the most important thing to do as an artist is to keep your name clean. And I again, like, thank you. I feel very seen by that blessing because like I have tried to do that, man. You know, I've never, like, I don't know. Anytime I've like tried to fucking go for the pudding and like follow the big money gigs or try to go for the high prestige gigs, like when I'm operating for the wrong reason, they don't go right, you know? So do good work for good people and really try to build like meaningful
relationships,
long-term relationships.
Yeah, like we said that at the beginning, like that really, that's literally what it is. And if you care about the artist you're working for, then you're going to care about their music, and then you're going to do good work.
That's absolutely right, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, Brian, this is getting long in the tooth, but I've thoroughly enjoyed schmoozing with you. I do have a question that I ask every person on the show, so I'll ask you as well. Just looking back on your journey, was there maybe something you did or didn't do along the way that you'd kind of want to look back on your earlier self and be like, Brian, keep at that. That's going to get you where you need to go, or the other way around, like, Brian, quit doing that. It's holding you back. What would be that one piece of advice you would share with the audience?
Gosh, well, I think on the wings of this trip that I was telling you about to the Oklahoma City Ballet, like, because that work was such a beautiful thing, man. It was just something that we did for ourselves and because we were excited about it and because we loved it, and it's always had this important place in my own feeling about my own work, and like it's these important relationships and friendships came out of it and shit, so I don't know, it just like is emblematic, I think, of really the beautiful thing about when you do this work for the right reasons. And then, like I said, like sitting in this theater with two friends from different contexts in my life and this beautiful place, and watching this reinterpretation of these works who clearly reached some people, and like a choreographer who thought I need to reinterpret these in my own canon and was inspired to thus create as well. I don't know, man, that was just beautiful. So I think never discount where the work will go or why. And like for me personally, when I have had the rightest, like purest intent behind what I'm making, it seems to always go the farthest too, which is incredible. It's like that can be a heartbreaking thing too, right? Like you're working on this music career and it just isn't working. Fuck it. And the harder I try, the worse it works. Like that's also a kind of surrender that you have to allow for too, But like I don't know. I've just been so fucking lucky, man, that when I'm like really leaning into my authentic voice and like really doing shit for the right reasons, that's what people respond to.
Yeah, that's totally awesome, and I feel that. Yeah, I mean, obviously I haven't had the same accolades as you, but when I do music for the right reasons, it usually comes back around and helps have an impact. And
yeah. Well, and hey, man, I just also want to say, like, I hear what you say, like, I hear people speak towards that thing a lot also, and like that, I really place no value on the way these things enter culture or whatever. Like, it's like how we feel about these projects and how we make them with the people around us. Like the pudding or whatever cool outcome, how impressive a fucking credit is, it's asinine compared to the process of making the work. And so like, I don't know, don't valuate your own shit in that way either, man. If you're making things that you love and stand behind with people that you value and shit, you're making work that's absolutely as important as anything at anyone at any level,
Yeah.
This is me saying this to myself too, right? Like I don't have like what I would consider like any real big hits, like 1 billion+ plays on Spotify, and like that's something I want, like just for my own vanity and shit. So it's easy for me to look up somewhere too, But that also doesn't mean that the work that I haven't made hasn't been important to at least one person before.
Yeah.
So
no, absolutely. Yeah, I worked on honestly, it was a demo. There was no budget, there was no time. And it was just like this, there was a boy who was killed in a terrorist attack here in Israel, and it was like 20 years since he had died. And literally just like, I was working with this singer. She didn't have any budget. She's like, 19. And we just did the best we could with what we could do, basically. And it had a massive impact. Like I just got random messages like, oh man, this was so meaningful. I remember him. I remember that. Like, And it was just like, this is like, we just scrapped it to get together the best we could. It was meaningful. It was important. And it had an impact. And that was just like, that was so touching for me, that whatever little part I had to do with this, song made a real impact on people that were friends with this kid, before he died,
And did anyone ask you about what the vocal
Absolutely
chain was?
zero people.
Fuck no, they didn't.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like an example of something that just came to my mind when you were talking about that. So
no, it's beautiful, man. I love it, and ultimately that's what this is like. And I think like I'm being a little bit intentionally jocular here by flaming gear and stuff, but at the end of the day, our job is to communicate emotionally, right? It's like we have this kind of crazy technical job that through which we realize this ability to communicate on an emotional level that reaches much deeper than intellectually, and like in a way that doesn't also often have to, or sometimes does have to be fought against in the same way as an intellectual reception of an idea, right? Like you ever hear a piece of music that somebody wrote and you're like, oh my God, this connects with me so deeply. It's as if someone has given me permission to experience the world in this way. You know what I mean? Like you hear Nilsson for the first time, or for me, it was like, I want to say that St. Vincent track, like her third album, I think it was self-titled. It was like Birth in Reverse, maybe was the tune, or I think it was, anyway. Digital Witness, that was the shit. When I heard that shit, I was like, you can do this, So I don't know. There's something just so fascinating to me about being able to reach across space-time and connect with people that are from totally different circumstances or cultures or times and places, right?
And the tools and the gear and the the fun things that we like to nerd out on sometimes are just our toolkit of how do we achieve that, that emotional thing.
That's right.
And just
that's right. But and again, they can be equivalently useful in realizing the task, but I think they can in the conversation sometimes take like import away from what ultimately is emotional communication.
I mean, we're therapists, right? Like in our own.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
I think emotional intelligence is maybe one of the most important things that a producer, audio engineer can have. And
100% for me, for sure.
I'm realizing that's something I need to lean into, because that's like in a sense, it's like a superpower, right? Like
100%. Like I said, it's a people business, man. Unless you are yourself, well, and even I was going to say, unless you are yourself writing and originating all the music, but even still, like in order to write and originate music, you need to be tapped into the part of yourself that can connect to other people. You know?
You need to have connected with artists that inspired you.
Exactly. Yeah. Nothing happens in a vacuum.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, thank you so much for sharing all these words with me and the audience. What's the best place to find you on the internet? How can people connect with you, listen to your work?
Well, I don't have a website.
I noticed.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know. If you want to find me, you can find my Instagram. It's @BeattyBender, or you can go to rainbowblonderecords.com. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Fuck, Google's right out there. You know what it is. All music, my ass. Fucking IMDb me. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Awesome.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter though. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Amazing. Well, Brian, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and appreciate you taking the time to do this and teaching me and my audience. All these things, so many things, lots to think about.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Secret Sonics. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. If you've been digging the show, it would be awesome if you could share this episode or your favorite episode with a friend or two, and or leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher of choice. That's it for now. Have a great week. Take care and dig in. See you soon. Bye-bye.